Black and gold fans, college football fans, welcome in or welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we examine, discuss, honor, and celebrate all things college football across the entire college football landscape, but with an emphasis on our beloved black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Welcome back, guys. I'm your host, Blair Parks. Great to be back with you, and we are hot off the heels of an excellent Week 7 of college football. I mean, just my initial thoughts on Week 7, maybe perhaps one of the best Saturdays of college football that I can absolutely ever remember. Just action-packed from start to finish, and I'll say more on that here in a little bit. Now, if you've watched my previous episodes, right, you know that weeks 4 through 7 I coined as my college football this season's 4-course meal. So week 7 was finally the dessert, which for a lot of you guys out there is your favorite course of a 4-course meal. And I'm telling you, the dessert was mighty tasty to some folks. I'm talking folks in Knoxville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Fort Worth, Texas, Syracuse, New York, I see you there, Boulder, Colorado, didn't forget about you guys either, Champaign, Illinois, that's right, and last but certainly not least, in Vermillion, South Dakota. Maybe you're thinking, why? Remember, there was a top 3 matchup that took place at the FCS level, and number 3 South Dakota State traveled to North Dakota State and took down the mighty Bison in the Wells Fargo Dome up there in Fargo. So what an excellent time to be a fan. I mean, of those programs, you scored monumental, big-time upsets and wins over the weekend. And now we finally have come to a place where we can see, and I promise you this would be the case at the conclusion of Week 7, that we finally have some clarity and some separation on who the legitimate teams are and who the best players are at the college football level. And what just an awesome weekend. I mean, I can't wait to get this episode going. And by the way, this is my Week 7 review and recap episode that I do every week on the Monday or Tuesday following the college football action from the previous weekend. It was epic, historical, ground-shaking, earth-quaking, action-packed Week 7, like I've stated. Both black and golds enjoyed bye weeks, which they really came at good times for both Missouri and Iowa. Missouri takes the field this weekend in Columbia. It's homecoming against lonely Vanderbilt, while Iowa gets the pleasure of traveling on the road and playing Ohio State in the Horseshoe in Columbus. So we'll see what the Hawkeyes can do with that game coming up this weekend. But wow, just what a... It's just action-packed. I mean, I'm talking from early a.m. Saturday. And basically, there were classics throughout the entire day on Saturday. It was must-see TV. Early a.m. Saturday, and then wrapped up for you folks on the East Coast, early a.m. Sunday morning at the conclusion of that Utah or USC at Utah instant classic that we witnessed as well. So, wow, I can't wait to get more in depth with this episode. But before I say any more, I need to thank all of you, those of you who have subscribed, the friends of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, the Black and Gold family, all of you college football fans who recently have shown your support. I give you my gratitude. Thank you for all that you've done. Subscriptions are way up, so are comments. Views, likes, rates, everything is trending in the right direction, unlike the current stock market. So thank you for everything you've done for the channel. We continue to grow on the daily, and none of this would be possible without you, the Touchdown Black and Gold viewer and family. And like always, I always remind you, first-time viewers, that if you aren't a fan of the black and gold, that is totally okay. Nobody's perfect. That you are welcome here. This is a safe haven and a place for college football fans to gather and celebrate and share their love and passion for all things college football, and specifically your team of fandom. You are all welcome here. So I always encourage and welcome and appreciate your comments, your participation. We need more subscribers, so feel free, click the button. You definitely don't want to miss out on the rest of the season. So what's on tap for my Week 7 review and recap episode? The usual segments. I've got 4 coming your way this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and play the college football stock market with my weekly segment of buy, sell, or hold. I'm going to go ahead and give you 6 takes as far as things that I observed from Week 7, excuse me. And then I will tell you if I'm going to buy, sell, or hold that stock, that statement. Then after that, one of my favorite segments, it'll be the good, the bad, and the ugly from Week 7. Followed then by my team power rankings post Week 7. And followed by my 3 cheers from Week 7, which that will detail some stories, players, teams, coaches, fan bases, some things that might have gotten lost in the shuffle and the revelry of Week 7 that I definitely want to bring special attention to, celebrate, and give some props and love to. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get it. So my first segment today, like usual, it's my attempt to play the stock market like Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street himself. It's time for college football, buy, sell, or hold. There's the opening bell. We're open for business. Let's go ahead and get it. All right, so my first take this week for buy, sell, or hold, my first hot take is, following Week 7's action, the 4 college football teams at this point, and at this point only, make sure you understand this, these are the 4 teams that should be in the college football playoff, and who would receive invites if the season ended today. They would be seeded. Number 1, Tennessee. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, Clemson. And number 4, Georgia. I am absolutely going to buy that statement. I think these 4 teams have proven at this point to be the best teams in the nation, based on who they've played, how they've looked, wins not just in conference, but also non-conference victories. I think these 4 teams have slightly separated themselves from a few other teams that I think are also in the running at this point. Those teams being Ohio State, Alabama, TCU, Oklahoma State, Utah, and USC. I think, and also UCLA, guys. I mean, there's about 9 or 10 teams, I think, right now that have a legitimate chance to make the college football playoff. But these are the 4, I believe, who are deserving of invites if the season ended today. So let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, comment. If you agree or disagree, let me know based on my college football top 4 for the college football playoff. My second hot take of this week is UCLA is the most forgotten about, untalked about, unknown, undefeated team in college football. I'm actually going to sell that. UCLA is a team that a lot of people haven't mentioned or really aren't talking about. I'm very high on the Bruins and what they have, but I sell because it's got to be the orange of Syracuse. Another big-time win for Syracuse during Week 7. This is Syracuse's first 6-0 start since 1987. A lot of you watching perhaps weren't even alive at that time. I was. But Syracuse, a big victory at home over the weekend against a ranked NC State team, which, not to take anything away from the Orange, but Devin Leary did not play in that game. He is not back from injury for the Wolfpack, but still one of the great stories on this young college football season. So that's right, Syracuse, hands down the most forgotten about, unknown, undefeated team remaining in the nation. So my next hot take, in the SEC East, Georgia is the strongest challenger to Tennessee. I'm actually going to hold that one for now, and here's why. I still got a feeling about this Kentucky team, guys. Now that they're fully back and healthy again, they're reunited. Will Levis back with their bruising running back, Chris Rodriguez Jr., who I think is the best running back in the SEC. They had a big victory over the weekend against Mississippi State at home in Lexington. So I still believe in this Kentucky team, guys. I mean, Georgia, we know is good. They are ranked number 1 right now in the nation. But I think they're a little bit suspect on the defense. I'm not quite sold on them fully yet, top to bottom. So I'm going to hold that for now. And the nice thing about this is still all going to be figured out because these 3 teams, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Georgia, still have to play each other in a winner-take-all, so to speak, round-robin tournament. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, and none of those 3 teams really have an advantage via schedule because some of them will host one, travel to the other 2, and vice versa. So it's really going to be interesting what happens down the stretch here for the SEC East crown. My next take, in the opposite division of the SEC, in the SEC West, Ole Miss is the strongest challenger to Alabama. I'm going to sell that, and here's why. I think LSU, guys, is a better team, and they are absolutely trending in the right direction. I think first-year coach Brian Kelly, formerly at Notre Dame, I think his message is finally starting to sink in. His players are buying into it, and they're fresh off a big-time victory over the weekend at Florida. LSU currently sits 3-1 in conference play. Yes, they did get absolutely destroyed at home in Death Valley by Tennessee, but I like them as being the challenger because down the stretch, they host both Alabama and Ole Miss come to Baton Rouge for those games. And that actually starts this weekend when LSU hosts top 10 and undefeated Ole Miss. So we'll see what this hot take comes to fruition, but I'm selling it. I think this LSU team is the biggest challenger to Alabama right now, but we'll find out. Once again, comment, like, share, subscribe, rate, share. My 5th hot take, my next coming right at you, is this week's college football bipolar is Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. I am absolutely buying that in bulk. Here we are. After week 7, Notre Dame now sits 3-3. They're a 500 team. If you recall, they opened up the season with back-to-back losses, one at Ohio State, which was a close game. That was a good loss, if there is such a thing, but then lost at home in South Bend to Marshall from the Sun Belt. And then after that, they did string together 3 straight victories. But week 7 saw all of that kind of crashing and coming back down to earth. They lost at home to 1-4 Stanford in South Bend in the presence of Touchdown Jesus, the blasphemy. And if you didn't know, Stanford's only victory prior to defeating Notre Dame over the weekend was against FCS powerhouse Colgate. All I know about Colgate is that it's a toothpaste, basically. So, yeah, this Notre Dame team, I just don't know who they are. I mean, they're still Jekyll and Hyde. They are this year's bipolar. They have UNLV up next here in week 8. And they still have big-time tough matchups at Syracuse. And they also travel to USC. But they host Clemson and South Bend. So they have 3 legit big-time matchups remaining. So we'll see where Notre Dame goes from here. Now, my sixth and final hot take post-week 7 is this. The offensively challenged, offensively deficient, the offensively inept Iowa Hawkeyes, my Iowa Hawkeyes, have the best non-conference win in the nation. I'm buying that, guys. You're thinking, what? He's lost it. But Iowa has the best non-conference victory in the nation. You know why? I'm buying it because they have that victory straight up against now #1 South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits at the FCS. Since they did defeat North Dakota State, they took over the top spot. So Iowa, you defeated a #1 team. So that is something that we can hang our hats on as Hawkeye fans. You can't take that away from us because #1 is #1. So just let us celebrate that, guys, okay? So go easy with the comments on that. I do expect some from that hot take, but hey, you know, it's been a rough season. You got to find the silver lining someplace. So that is this week's segment of Buy, Sell, or Hold. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know what you think about those hot takes, especially what my college football playoff field would be. It'd be those 4 teams. Now, let's move into the next segment of the episode. One of my favorite. The music can only indicate. That's right. It's that time for the good, the bad, and the ugly from week 7. All right. Let's go ahead and start off with the good from week 7. And I'm just going to say in general, the college football product and brand, I mean, it was on full, complete display on Saturday. I've already talked about how historic and how entertaining it was. It was must-see. It was epic. It was just full of instant classics the entire day. Another one that people might have missed was that big North Carolina at Duke game. Another exciting game, just like the Tennessee-Alabama game was, just like the late game, USC at Utah. Also, you had a walk-off overtime thriller in Fort Worth between TCU and Oklahoma State. And then right after that, in the Big Ten, kind of a battle of cellar dwellers, another walk-off OT win between Wisconsin and Michigan State. It was non-stop, guys. So, I mean, just the product is so up from college football. I mean, everything is looking great moving forward. And I think a couple of things have really added to this or aided in the product being a little bit better. I absolutely think that the COVID year, the 5th year that the NCAA gave to these athletes because of the COVID-19 pandemic, that has absolutely helped because now we have older and more experienced players and teams. I definitely think via player movement, the transfer portal has absolutely helped disperse talent across the nation. Maybe not upper end talent, but still talent that maybe just didn't have room at this program has moved on someplace else, and you've seen the benefits from that and the dividends that have been paid. So say what you will about the transfer portal, but it absolutely has affected in a good way college football, the entire landscape, and it has. Now, NIL, I'm still kind of leery about that, but it seems like that has also helped disperse the talent. And the bigger the pool to more teams, hey, you have some. I feel like Oprah Winfrey, you get a car. The NIL money, as far as going to this place, that program, this college town, it has helped the overall product and brand, but I'm still, my overall decision on that is still pending, but transfer portal absolutely is a good thing. So now the bad from week 7, and I gotta call out some first-year head coaches, especially some of these first-year head coaches at Premier and Blue Blood programs. Now, some are doing really good, right? But I'm going to focus on the bad right now because It is the bad for this segment. I got to start with Marcus Freeman. Already mentioned Notre Dame lost to Stanford. They sit there 3-3 at one of the bluest of all blue blood programs in the nation. All right. So Marcus Freeman off to a rough start there in South Bend. Brent Venables down at Oklahoma, another absolute blue blood. Now Oklahoma is currently 4-3, and they are coming off a victory over number 19 Kansas in Week 7. So they did end their 3-game Big 12 conference losing streak. But right now, here they are 4-3, and I've said on past episodes that the Big 12 to me is the deepest, most exciting, and best conference top to bottom. And this year, if you look at the standings, the bottom of the Big 12 currently is Oklahoma and Iowa State, two of the premier programs that we've seen in the last few years, with the rise of Iowa State under Coach Matt Campbell. And we know Oklahoma is always in the running for the big prizes. So Brent Venables, welcome back to Norman. Next is Mario Cristobal down there at Miami. Miami currently is 3-3, and they're also coming off of a victory during Week 7 over Virginia Tech. But, I mean, to me, Miami is a blue blood. I mean, look at their history, the multiple national championships, Heisman Trophy winners, the U. I mean, it's another blue blood. And here they are at 500 under first-year coach Mario Cristobal. So, welcome back to Miami there, Mario. And the premier, now it's not a blue blood to me, but I consider Virginia Tech a premier program, not quite blue blood, but I just mentioned that they lost over the weekend to Miami. So right now, first-year coach Brent Pry, his first year there in Blacksburg, Virginia. Virginia Tech currently sits at 2-4. I mean, slowly bleeding out. So I've got to say the bad is those first-year head coaches. I mean, I'm not calling for any of them to be on the hot seat. All right, that is uncalled for. Trust the process. Give them legitimate time. But if things don't start getting a little bit better, you're definitely going to hear a lot of shade, a lot of talk back from your fan bases, social media, media outlets. It's going to get a little hairy in those programs and those schools if things don't start to improve slightly or immediately or big time here in the second half of the season. Now the ugly from Week 7, and I hate kicking somebody when they're already down, and I understand that they are in an awful, like a no-win situation, and I'm talking about the Vanderbilt Commodores and their football program down there in Music City. With their academic standards being in the SEC, they are at a complete disadvantage because they're not able to go and recruit upper tier talent and only talent. It has to be a combination of talent, maybe second, but academic standing first. So I get it. It is a very, very difficult situation for Vanderbilt. But following their loss over Week 7, and not just lost, but they got dismantled at number 1 Georgia to the tune of 55-0. They got blanked. The lonely Commodores have now lost 24 consecutive SEC conference games. Wow, that is tough to believe. You would think they'd be able to find one team that just had an off day that they were able to knock off, but 24 straight SEC losses for Vanderbilt. But more surprising, during that span, they have been blanked 5 times. 5 shutouts, including Saturday's game. So 5 shutouts within 24 losses to SEC teams. So hopefully second-year coach Clark Lee can right the ship there. Vanderbilt, folks, give him time. He's in a catch-22 situation, but give him time. Let's just see what he can do. So Vanderbilt, unfortunately, you are the ugly, UGLY, you ain't got no alibi from Week 7. So that is this this episode segment of the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, let's move into my next segment on today's episode, my team power rankings post week 7. And what I do each and every week during my review and recap episodes, I give you based on what I see on the field, who they've played, who they've beaten, who they've lost to, the eye test, the rosters. I give you my top 10 teams plus 2. So I give you who I believe are the 12 best teams in the nation at this point after week 7. And we do have a lot of movement this week, a ton of movement. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Let's start at the top, as I usually do. And this might be a surprise to some of you, but to some of you, the other half of you are going to say, yep, how can we disagree with him? Number 1, up 3 spots from last week. I got to give it to the Tennessee Volunteers. To me, that's the biggest win, one of the biggest wins of the season. But if you look at their resume, hands down the best resume in all of college football, and you can't even try to deny or debate that with what they've done. So I got them up 3 spots, sitting at number 1. Number 2, down 1 spot from last week. They had a bye week. I've got Ohio State sitting there at the number 2 spot on my list. Number 3, moving up 3 spots, just like Tennessee, after an absolute dominant performance. I've got the Michigan Wolverines. Absolutely housed Penn State in the big house. See what I did there? The final score was 41-17 in this top 10 battle of undefeateds. And really, should have been 41-10. But a touchdown, one of the touchdowns scored by Penn State was via the pick 6 variety. So would have been even absolutely more one-sided on the scoreboard as well. And this Michigan team, they really, really impressed me, guys. I'm telling you. I think right now they could beat Ohio State. That's just my opinion. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. Now, some of you Ohio State fans there are saying, the blasphemy, how dare he? But it's okay. So number 4 this week, down 2 spots, even though I already mentioned absolutely pulverized Vanderbilt. But because of the movement of Tennessee and Michigan, I've got down 2 spots at number 4, the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 5, just where they were last week. All this team does is continue to win. To me, they've been the most steady team this college football season. I'm talking about the Clemson Tigers sitting there in the 5-hole. They went on the road and took care of business at a very game Florida State team. And we all know that going down to Doak Walker Stadium is always, always a tall order. So they've got good wins too, does Clemson. They continue just to take care of business and look solid doing so. Number 6, down 3 spots. And I definitely think they can rise again. They can continue to rise back up. But I think down 3 spots from last week, following the loss at Knoxville, I've got the Alabama Crimson Tide sitting there at number 6. Number 7, up 3 spots from last week due to their big-time victory at home in Fort Worth against the Oklahoma State Cowboys in overtime. I've got to give it to the TCU Horned Frogs, sit there in the 7-hole. 8, up 1 spot. They moved up via the movement. They had an off week, but they have a huge game coming up this week when they face off with Oregon in Eugene. I've got in the 8-hole UCLA sitting comfortably there inside the top 10. Number 9, down 2 spots following a loss. And I learned a little bit more about this team. And I think you did too if you watched it. I questioned their defense, their physicality, their mentality. But even in defeat, the USC Trojans still looked really good at one of the most ruckus environments in stadiums and home field environments, playing Utah in Salt Lake City. So, and USC still going to have opportunity to rise back up my power list. All of these teams will. I mean, I'm going to say that in general. There is so much wiggle room, so much football to be played, that there's going to be a lot of movement each and every week of these teams. So I've got USC number 9. Number 10, up one spot, I've got the Ole Miss Rebels, which I'm not quite sure about this team, but they are ranked in the top 10. They're undefeated, but they got that huge game that I already mentioned earlier this episode. They traveled to Baton Rouge to play LSU in Death Valley coming up in week 8. So I'll definitely learn more about Ole Miss when I watch that game. Number 11, down 3 spots. Another team that really impressed me in loss and defeat was the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So they fall down to number 11 and getting themselves back on my top 10 plus 2 after that big time victory over USC. If you missed it, about a minute to go, they score a touchdown, does Utah, on 4th and goal. Instead of tying it, they go for 2, convert, and hold off the Trojans. I've got back on my list, number 12, welcome back, Utah. So that, guys, is my updated team power rankings post week 7. Let me know what you think. Do I got this team too high? This team too low? Hey, where's this team at? Comment. Let me know. I want to hear from you, the college football fanatic, college football fans near and far, black and gold family. I want to hear your comments. So my next and last segment of today's episode is my 3 cheers from week 7. And like I explained during the opening, that these are some stories that might have gotten lost in the flood, fallen between the cracks during week 7. But these are things I definitely want to give some shout outs to, a little bit of publicity, a little bit of attention, because they absolutely deserve it. And I'm going to go ahead and start off right now with my team. 3 cheer for week 7 is the Colorado Buffaloes. Why, you say? Because Colorado finally tasted victory for the first time this season, and how sweet it is, how well done that dessert was for Colorado fans. Colorado gutted out a 20-13 overtime victory at home versus California, the Cal Golden Bears. With the win, they improved to 1-5, and I love it. 1-5, their first victory. I love seeing this spectacle, one of the great spectacles in all of sports in general. The Colorado fans rushed the field. I absolutely love that, even when you're 1-5 to rush the field. So for you, Colorado, I give to you my very first hip hip hooray. My first cheer for week 7 belongs to you. All right. So my next cheer from week 7, I'm going to give this to a specific player. During that big-time epic classic game, USC versus Utah, which I know a lot of the big talk, and for good reason, after week 7 was Tennessee's victory over Alabama, and that was a thriller, an instant classic. But if you stayed up late, that USC-Utah game was just as good. And one player, I mean, the stat line and the difference he made for the winning team, I'm talking about Utah tight end Dalton Kincaid. Earlier this season, Utah had some awful injury news concerning their stud tight end, Brant Kuithe. So out is their number 1 tight end. But hey, who's there left to pick up the pieces? Who's going to step in? It's this cat, Dalton Kincaid, and he stepped up large for the Utes this season, and especially in this game. Listen to this stat line for Dalton Kincaid. 16 receptions on 16 targets. So I've got to give a little bit of credit to Cam Rising, the quarterback, because obviously to catch, it's got to be a catchable ball. But still, 16 receptions on 16 targets. He recorded 234 yards receiving and 1 touchdown in that big win for Utah over USC. What a game for Dalton Kincaid. So for you, Mr. Kincaid, you get my second cheer of week 7. Take a bow, enjoy it. All right. Now my final cheer from week 7. I'm going to go ahead and give this to a specific coach of a program. And these guys and this coach have everybody's forgotten about them. Everybody forgot about Dre. That's what it reminds me of. I'm talking about Cincinnati head football coach Luke Fickell. How can you forget about Cincinnati and the run they've been on? The last 2 years, Cincinnati, under Coach Luke Fickell, has received the non-Power 5's New Year's 6 berth, but last year even did better than that. They got to and shattered the glass ceiling of the college football playoff. They got an invitation as a non-Power 5 team. So Luke Fickell right now, this is what's going on. Because people have forgotten about them, but I think now, all of a sudden, we have to be reminded. After week 7, Cincinnati got a victory, and currently they are 5-1, ranked number 21 in the AP poll. I mean, so this is what they've done. They lost opening weekend, week 1 at Arkansas in a very, very competitive game by 1 touchdown. So since then, they've rattled off 5 straight victories. They've got themselves relevant again in the spotlight, and they've set themselves up to yet again grab the non-Power 5's New Year's 6 bowl berth. I mean, they're right there in position, especially after what we saw with the unfortunate news over the weekend of week 7 that both of the remaining at the time undefeateds at the non-Power 5 level, both from the Sun Belt, being number 25 James Madison and Coastal Carolina, both went down in defeat over the weekend. So now they are in the position to get all of the accolades once again as a non-Power 5 program. But they do have some big games remaining. A big game this weekend, they traveled to SMU in that very, very big-time, high-octane offense of the Mustangs. Later in the year, they traveled to UCF to take on the Knights and the Gus Bus. I mean, Gus Malzahn's got that bus trucking down the road, down the tracks. There is no doubt about it. And the last game of the year, they play Tulane, who is currently ranked number 25 in the AP poll. So for all of you who forgot about Luke Fickell in Cincinnati, I'm going to bring it back to your attention and my own because maybe potentially I forgot a little bit about Luke Fickell and Cincinnati. So well done, Luke. Well done, Bearcats. So for your accomplishments and accolades, I give you my final cheer from week 7. Enjoy it. Well deserved. All right, guys. Well, that's my episode today. That wraps up my week 7 review and recap episode. Please, I ask you, subscribe, click the button. It's right there. Like, share, rate, comment. Remember, your comments are what help drive this channel and these episodes. For those of you who have left comments, you can say, honestly, that Blair has responded to each and every one of these comments directly and specifically, because that's what I want. I enjoy this so much, and I thank you for just allowing me to be here in front of you, sharing my love and passion for everything college football. So please, let's keep the momentum going. Tell your fellow college football fanatical friends. Tell your office mates, your colleagues, family members. Keep on spreading the word out there to check out the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. So my next episode, guys, you could expect to see my Week 8 preview and picks episode. That should be posted here on the channel Thursday afternoon, if not early Thursday evening. So make sure to check that guy out. I'm going to give you a good preview and give you my picks for Week 8's big-time matchups. And there is several, across the entire board. It's going to be another great weekend of college football coming up. So until then, I thank you once again, and peace, progress, prosperity until I see you Thursday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe. And thank you for joining me on this episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I'll see you Thursday. Bye-bye.